now there are attention engineers on the other side of the screen whose very job it is to keep your eyeballs on their device as long as possible so that they make money. So the longer you're on it, the more money you make. And so they make it addictive. When I think about like, so what are kids used to? Well, they're used to having their heads down in devices, not looking up. And we've like normalized this behavior.
Welcome to the Radiant Mom Rising, the podcast that's all about celebrating and empowering the incredible hardworking mothers out there. I'm your host, Mary Dibble. I'm on a mission to equip you with the tools, strategies, and inspiration you need to conquer the challenges of motherhood and life, all while embracing your radiant self. Join us each week for amazing guest interviews, relatable stories, and a whole lot of fun. We're here to create a vibrant, supportive community where we can be our authentic selves, where no one feels alone, and where we uplift and cheer each other on along this incredible journey of motherhood. So, fellow Radiant Moms, get ready to rise, shine, and conquer the world. Let's grow together, laugh together, and make every week a celebration of the powerful, radiant moms we are. This is Radiant Mom Rising, and you're part of a community where your brilliance shines through. Are you ready to rise with us? Let's get started. Today's episode, we're diving deep into the fascinating topic of children's interactions in the digital age. Get ready to uncover the seismic shifts in social dynamics, the profound influence of technology on communication skills, and the invaluable role parents play in guiding their children through this ever-evolving landscape. My guest, Kathy, is a 20-year mom, 30-year teacher, author, coach, and wife, and she just retired from playing competitive softball after 42 years. In this episode, we explore practical strategies and share insightful antidotes and provide actionable advice to help you navigate the challenges and opportunities presented by the digital era. So whether you're a parent, educator, or simply curious about the future of human connection, you won't want to miss this enlightening discussion. Stay tuned as we embark on a journey to understand and empower the next generation in a world where screens are omnipresent and genuine human connections are more important than ever. Hey, Kathy, thank you so much for joining me on the show today. I have loved meeting you, getting to know you and what you're all about. So please share with us, introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about what you do, and then we'd love to hear, your story as far as what you've been through, what you've experienced that led you to do what you do today.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mary, for having me. I am so excited. We've had, several conversations now, and you're just so easy to talk to. So when people, ask me, oh, well, how do you want to be introduced? I always say, I'm a 20-year mom, a 30-year retired educator, a coach, an author, and I had just quick background. So I taught for 30 years in the same school and in the same grade. Taught fourth grade my entire career,
Wow.
and are like, wow, that's a, I'm like, and I always would say, oh, I'll teach a different grade. They're like, no, we want you in fourth grade. So it was interesting. So when you said, how did you get here? One of the things that, because I taught the same age kids through a long span of time, I actually got to see the differences in kids over a 30-year period. And one of the things that really struck me, and it was one of the things that actually led to my early retirement, by the way, I retired 5 years early, was how kids interacted. So when every single day of my career, I would greet the kids at the door and I would say, good morning, Mary, how are you doing today? And I'd expect two things: eye contact and a response. And in my first year teaching, every single kid on the first day of school was able to do that. And you would think like, oh, that's normal. It's like, that's not that hard. Fast forward to the last day of, to my last year of teaching. On the first day of school, one was able to look me in the eye and respond. And here's the thing. in December, I'm still reminding them, you need to look me in the eye. You need to respond. And I would like up it a little bit, like not just say, oh, I'm good. Maybe even ask me how I'm doing.
Yes.
And it was, I was actually teaching them these, to me, which I would say are basic skills that kids should be able to do. And I blame it, I really do. I blame it on technology because, like in the beginning of my career, when we would have computer time, we would all go down to the computer lab and they would learn to type. Like that's essentially what computer time was.
Mhm.
And then, fast forward to the end of my career, the kids are going down and they're like learning to code. They're doing research on the internet, which are all great things, but just their capabilities were so much more at a younger age. And when I think about like, so what are kids used to? Well, they're used to having their heads down in devices, not looking up, and we've like normalized this behavior.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I see it everywhere. As I was telling you, like even going to doctors' appointments, restaurants, things like that. You always see the kids or on their phones, no one talking. I seen even adults who would sit there and be
Um,
on their phones. And we
Yeah.
all again have a sense of being guilty for that. I mean, I'm a mom and I allow technology, of course, because I know it's of the future, but I also believe in limiting it. And I've seen a huge difference in my kids because of the limitations of it, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do find like part of it is like you just said that, you would go to a doctor's office or a dentist or wherever, and we see people with their heads down in devices. But like think back when, we were younger and we didn't have all this technology. What did people do in a waiting room? Well, they would take up a magazine or read, or maybe they bring their own book, depending on how long they thought they were going to be there. Or maybe they would even have a conversation with someone else in the waiting room. And that's just it. Is like we didn't grow up with all this technology. So when like I always say this. So when I was raising my kids when they were younger, and let's say they had a temper tantrum in the food store because they wanted a box of like Lucky Charms, and we're like, no, you can't have it. And they're like, ah. So I could call up my parents and say, hey, when I had a temper tantrum about not getting something, or when my siblings did, what did you do about it? And they could give me advice. Well, now, when these kids are on their devices all day long and obsessed and have meltdowns when you would tell them it's being taken away, I can't call my parents and say, hey, what did you do when you took away the iPad? we 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 don't have this availability. And
Mhm.
so parents, it's almost like they don't know what to do. And I've heard people say to me, well, we had television growing up, and look, we're not addicted to it. Okay, yes, that is so true. But here's the thing. Now, there are attention engineers on the other side of the screen whose very job it is to keep your eyeballs on their device as long as possible so that they make money. So the longer you're on it, the more money you make. And so they make it addictive. I
Yeah.
mean, think about when you and I were growing up, we could watch, an episode of a television show, and we would have to wait until the next week to find out what happens.
Oh my gosh, yes, I know at the end of the season you have to wait a whole year.
Yes. Well, there's none of that
Yeah.
now. Now you
Hmm.
can just binge watch it
Yeah. Oh
because
yeah.
we have this availability of technology that you can just spend hours upon hours upon hours. And then we say, huh, I wonder why they're addicted. Well, hours doing something, yeah, it's not shocking then.
Yeah, definitely not. Definitely not. And so, this is where you come in. Tell us like how this experience for you played a role in you realizing, okay, somebody has got to step up and do something about this.
So, everything that, I just told you was probably a like a precursor for me to say, well, there has to be something else that we can do. Because I find that, what, we're all parents and we look at other people and we say, well, Sarah lets her kids on the device and she lets them use it. So it can't be that bad. But the thing is yes, it can be. And so we can't even say like, oh, well, we're just gonna kind of follow like what other parents do, and we're not gonna, we're not gonna worry about it. But we do need to worry about it. So what for me was I started seeing this, and I met my business partner, and he was actually he had actually had a business where parents would come to him and say, my gosh, my kid is on a device all the time, can you help me monitor it? So he would put like software or like in homes, or hardware in homes to help monitor it. But the thing was, is the kids just found a way around it. Kids were like, oh, they're pretty smart. They're like, oh, well, you think you're gonna limit my technology use? Well, I'll just, I'll find another way. Or you're gonna, monitor the apps that I'm on, or follow me on whatever social media I'm on. Well, then I'll just make a fake account so that you don't know about it. So we realized that just putting limits on kids was not working. So what we developed was a program that actually engages with the kids, and it gives them the why of like why their parents don't want them on devices so much, because we explain to them about what dopamine is and how it's created. We talk about anxiety and depression and the root causes of it. We show them like what's posted on social media is not reality, but highlight reels. And that like any drug, and tech is a drug, there are consequences from using it. And so when we figured out that let's get the kid engaged, let's have their buy-in, that's actually what helps to change their behavior. Because once we teach them all of this, their eyes are open. They're like, wait, there are people, there are attention engineers who are trying to keep me on here as long as possible. Well, I don't want that to happen. And that's when their behavior is changed. And it was funny. We've done like focus groups, and we've had schools that are going through it. And they are like, we'll go and talk to the kids, and the kids were like, wow, we thought you were one of those, companies that are like, tech is bad, stop using it, don't, put it away. And he's like, but when we found out that you never say that, you never say to stop using it, he's like, I actually use my phone less. And that's what it is, because like our goal in everything with conversation is to generate a conversation. That's what we want to do. So everything that we have is geared towards that. Let's have a conversation about it. Because Mary, if the moment we say to our kids about anything, you can't, whatever, fill in the blank, they hear it as, you want me to do this?
Yes,
You
that
want me
rebel.
to try this?
That's that rebellious spirit right there.
Yes. And they're like, okay, that's a great idea, Mom. That's a great
Mhm.
idea, Dad. I'm going to do it. But instead, like technology is here to stay. And I think you said that when we were like
Yeah.
talking offline. We can't just say, just stop, because it's not going to happen. So we have to learn how to come alongside of it, and you have to educate the kids. Like they're not in my office, and the books are in my partner's office. We have so many books that we've read on this topic,
Yeah.
and there's the books are like excellent in terms of explaining what the problem is, but we find that they're not they're long on the problem, but they're short on the solution.
Mm-hmm.
And we feel like that's where conversation is different, is we engage with the kids and we get them talking about these things with their parents, or even with teachers, things that are happening every single day in their lives. And then once they feel like, oh, you know what, these adults aren't just saying no, they're actually listening, they're hearing my heart, they're hearing what I'm saying about it. And that's, that's changes their behaviors.
Awesome. And I can understand that, because at the end of the day, that's what we want. We want to feel heard. We want to feel seen. And sometimes like you say, like a drug, that technology helps them to escape their realities, and it helps them to just feel something, and depending on what they're going through in their life. And I think this is why this is so important, because we're missing that communication piece as parents with our kids.
Mhm.
And I hear all the time a lot of parents saying, "Oh, they're just a teen. Oh, it's because they're just a teen." And what would you say to someone who kind of feels that way, that people, their teenagers are acting out this way or doing this because they're just a teenager?
Well, I I have, you know, my I have a 20-year-old and a 16-year-old, and I I have an amazing relationship with both of them. And I don't have that amazing relationship because, I started when they were 16 and 20. I have that relationship because when they were 1 and 2 and 5 and 8, there was that communication going on, and it was building that relationship then with them so that this way, when they are teenagers, you have something to fall back on. And I find that, like, when parents say, well, it's just a teen being a teen. And but that's yes, teens are teens and they're going to be moody, but also, how do you react? Like, my kids might be like, oh my gosh, mom, I don't want to talk about it. But we can still have conversations because we've established this pattern of, okay, well, I know that, you want me to back off a little bit and we don't have to talk about this. But those really important conversations, we're always going to be able to come back to because we have this framework, we have this foundation. And we had a parent who had gone through conversation, and he said to me, his daughter was, I think, 12, 11 or 12 at the time. And he said, what really excites me is the conversations that I had with my child when we kind of thought it was going to be about technology, he said it ended up being about this myriad of other things that had nothing to do with technology. And he said, so now I have this framework. He's like, I have this foundation of being able to talk to my child about just anything.
Yeah.
And that, he goes, and so moving forward, he goes, we have something we can, it almost anchors us. We can say, okay, well, this is happening here. It has nothing to do with technology. It's something else in life. But remember all those years ago when we were, going through conversation and we were able to talk about this, this, and this. Now it opens those doors of opportunity. And because I find that with something like technology, parents don't know what they don't know.
Mhm.
And they don't know what to talk about.
Mhm.
So what do? Well, then sometimes it's just easier just to not talk about it. And just, it's the elephant in the room.
Mhm.
But the thing is we do need to have those hard conversations. And it's not judgmental, it's not pointing fingers, it's not laying blame, but it's saying, hey, did you know about whatever it is? Like, I was telling my son the other day, I was telling my husband too, because they were like, what? So there's this scam. It's this sextortion scam. So this girl befriends a boy on a social media platform, sends them an inappropriate picture, and asks them to reciprocate. Well, first, by the way, this girl is not a girl, it's a guy in another country doing this. Okay.
Mhm.
So the boy is like, oh, you know what? There's this girl. She really likes me. I'm going to send her a picture. So he does. And now she, he gets blackmailed because she says, you know what? Send me money. Send me money on a a various app or a gaming console. And if you don't, I'm going to blast this out to social media, this picture of you. So then the boy is like, oh no, I don't want this to be out there. So he pays. And then, well, what happens? Then it just continues. And here is something like, parents need to tell their kids these things, because if you're not aware, like my son's face was like, wait, what? Yes.
Yeah.
These things are happening. And unless you talk about it and let them know, then we can't pretend like, oh, well, they're never going to be exposed to it.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of things that we'd hope our kids aren't being exposed to, but they are at earlier and earlier ages. And
Yeah.
it's you need to be able to have those conversations. And the thing is with like this sextortion scam.
Wow.
So I think it was in um 2021, there were like 10 reported cases of this. And in 2023, there were over 10,000 reported cases. So that tells you that there's
Yeah.
probably a lot unreported. And it's really hard to prosecute because they're outside of US law.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Attention, hardworking moms. Are you ready to kickstart your journey to a thriving online business? Introducing Learn and Earn Profits Online Max, a groundbreaking digital resale course that's revolutionizing success. Learn how to create your own funnel and sell this exact course, pocketing a whopping 100% of the profits. Yes, you heard that right, 100% yours. Lipo Max is an enhanced platform packed with incredible modules and valuable insights designed to elevate your online business game. Don't miss this chance to join a supportive community where hard work meets exceptional opportunities. Say goodbye to the hassle of creating courses from scratch. Lipo Max does the heavy lifting for you, empowering you to learn and earn in an environment tailored for your success. Act fast and secure your spot in this game-changing program and set yourself up for a prosperous life. Join the Lipo Max community today. Click on the link in the show notes to learn more or contact me today with any questions.
And so it's like these things, I know parents don't know this. Like I tell people this story, and I've never had one person say, "Oh yeah, I've heard of that before."
Yeah.
What? Oh my gosh, that's crazy. And but once you're armed with that knowledge, then you can behave differently. So, I'm telling my husband and my son, and now my son knows that if, he gets something like this, he can be like, yeah, I'm not sending a picture of whatever of myself. There's I don't know if you ever heard there's a undressing app. Have you ever heard of that one? Okay,
Mm-mm.
so the undressing app is it can take, like, say you take a picture and you put it on a social media site. Well, then someone else can use this undressing app and basically undress the person. It's still their face. It's not their body, but how does anyone know? And so they put that out onto social media. So here's a nude picture of a person
Mm,
with not their body, but it's their face.
yeah.
And you know how we are. People like, oh my gosh, can you believe that so and so put out a naked picture of themselves? And it's like, no, they didn't, but people have already decided that they did. So even if it's not them, they're like, who would think that this would be developed?
Yeah,
Let,
right?
let's develop an undressing app.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, well, AI right now is
Mhm.
getting scarier and scarier because people literally can create all
Mhm.
sorts of false stuff. I mean, falseness of themselves, of other people. I mean, I think about the media as it is. I'm like, you already can't believe what you hear on that. And then now you have people who have the capabilities of creating absolutely false pictures, false all sorts of stuff. I can imagine how this is going to affect celebrities out there. So many people, good
Yeah.
people that are going to have all this, like, I mean, scandalous stuff that we won't even be able to tell what's real and what's not anymore. And
Mhm.
that is a scary thing to think about, is the direction of where things are going. But this is why the education that you provide is so impactful for the younger generation who are easily manipulated, easily influenced.
And but like when you think about, parents be like, well, my kid doesn't, isn't on devices or doesn't have anything, or they do, but they're a good kid. Yes, like I agree. We can have good kids, but it doesn't mean that they're not exposed to these things. And then what do they do?
Yeah.
Because they're kids. We already know that, their
Oh, yeah.
brains aren't going to be, especially with boys, aren't going to be developed until they're 25.
Yeah.
So it's yes, you can have a good kid, but they can still be exposed to things and still have things that they're like, oh, we don't know what to do with this. So they make the wrong choice, and it can
Mhm.
actually impact the rest of their lives.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I mean, even with my son, I've always told him, I said, like with pop-ups and things like that, I said, never click on things. Like always, if you ever have a question about something that seems weird, I just get away from it or come in at talk to me and daddy and ask us if this is
Yeah.
safe or not. Because I said, you have to be careful. I said, all it takes is a simple click a lot of times for someone to get access to your information, get on things, put a virus on your computer, and then you've lost it.
Mhm.
And so I do have that kind of conversation with him because I do get that he does a lot of the gaming stuff, and that's a very, you know, sensitive area in which
Mhm.
a lot of scammers are out there trying to get,
Yeah.
access to them and things like that. So I highly agree with what you're saying as far as educating them on things like that because you're right, they don't know any better.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's in those, conversations that you start having with them about, and that's what I'm saying. It's yes, it can be about technology, but it often will lead to other things where you start finding out like the heart of your kid. Oh, I
Mhm.
didn't know that this is how they felt about whatever it is.
Yeah.
And I think there's like art, I don't know about you, but like for me, I want to have a great relationship with my kids their entire lives, or my entire life, because hopefully, they'll outlive me. And to have those solid relationships in anything, you have to have conversations.
Yeah.
You have to be able to talk.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes parents feel that, especially on the technology side, that they don't want to be hypocritical because, well, I'm on my phone and
Yeah.
I need it for work. And yes, those are like legitimate things. But so instead of having that conversation, it's like, well, they're gonna call me out on it. They're gonna be like, oh, well, you're on it all the time. But it's, you know what? Then then you have that conversation and say, well, what can we do to be more present? Like, what can I do to be a good role model for you? And so it's something so like you just do something simple. Like we're gonna have no devices at the dinner table. And um we can have conversations and maybe the first couple of times might be a little awkward. And
Mhm.
I mean, we have our family rules. We don't even bring, and when we go out to eat, it's the same thing. Like during mealtime, there are no devices, period. And that's just something that we've always established so that when we go out to eat, that they know we don't bring devices in. I'm actually the only one that does. I leave it in my pocket. It's just for a time to like to know, oh, we should probably go now. But we bring in games. We have that, that game, what was it, Trouble, where you
Oh,
press
yes.
and go around and like you try to like
Oh, yes. I
get the
love
person
trouble.
back to their home before you get safely in. And we
Hmm.
found a mini one. It's like literally this big.
Really?
And we bring it into the restaurant, and I can't tell you how many servers are like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. And yes, it's the game, but they're like, and you guys are actually talking to each other.
Yeah. Oh my God. I love, yeah, board games are the best. Like we play like Cranium together and things like that. And I love that I still get to play board games, first of all, because I grew up playing it and I know it's not as popular for so many people, but I do because you get the laughter, the fun, the experience. Like Pictionary, especially, is a fun time for me and my family because we cannot, well, my son and my husband can draw, but me and my mom can't. We have some really good times with that. But they get so mad because I get my mom's drawing because I've been on her team for so long that they were like, "How do you get that?" And I mean, but that's the experiences that you get from that. I mean, even just like last night, I love those times where, there's the TV's off and at that point, the some of the kids are in bed, but we had our 2-year-old and we actually made a paper airplane. And I'm like, golly, when's the last time we've made a paper airplane? But we're just sitting there throwing it with him and he is just cracking up and running around. And I'm like, this is it. This is what they mean about living in the now and really being present because he's not going to be 2 years old again. And now he's my youngest. So I'm really soaking in every bit of that. But to see his dad and us just like running around laughing, you know, throwing a paper airplane and just feeling like almost like a kid ourselves again. It's so wonderful and a good role model for him to see, oh, they're not just sitting in front of the TV,
And
as parents.
yeah, like when you think about like what if I said to you, Mary, tell me about like your favorite childhood memory. You are not going to say something with a device. You're not going to be like, oh my gosh, that time that we played that video game. Like, no, you're not. You're going to pick something, an experience
Mm-hmm.
that you had, probably not by yourself, probably an experience that you had with loved ones.
Yeah.
And that's what we want for our kids. We want our kids to experience those conversations, to experience relationships, to have fun with the people that they're around, but outside of devices. Like I can't, like my son is learning to drive, and so he, obviously we're in the car together, and I'm not on my phone like
Oh
in the
yeah.
car. But like we have such great conversations because we're in the car and you really can't, do anything but drive and talk. And those, like, I really do. I love him driving us to the store and we walk through the food store and we're not on devices. We're just chatting away about, hey, look at that, whatever, the red grapefruit. I thought they didn't have any. And just having these conversations are what we remember. And I was actually, I was thinking about like when we take our kids to like a sporting event, and when parents say to me, "Oh, well, you know what? We spent the whole weekend together. I drove them to soccer and then they played in their soccer game and then I drove home." And I've asked like, "So on like the way to the game or the way home from the game, did you guys talk?" "Oh no, they were on their device." Okay. During the game, well, obviously you're not with them, so you're just watching. I know, but they had 5 soccer games, so I was, posting on social media. I'm like, wait, so like when you say I was with my kid the whole weekend, but you really weren't.
Yeah.
Like in the opportunities that you did have to maybe engage, you didn't because they were on a device. And then during the game, I get it. That's fine. You can't engage with them then, but like, what are you doing? Are you being present? Because I find that like parents are like, oh, well, I'm just going to be on my device. I'm not, you can talk with other parents at the field then, like you can still build relationships.
Yeah.
And I think even that like is a good model for our kids.
Yeah.
Just, we don't need to be on our devices all the time, especially if it's not something to do with work. Hey, you
Mhm.
know what? I'm going to be engaged in the real world. I'm going to be present in the real world.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things that I also want to highlight about the communication part of it is if you think about it, the kids, they're growing up and they're going to be adults. Like think of the harm that's going to have with their career life with them.
Mhm,
Like, how are they going to learn how to really communicate and talk to people when you have to as in a business? Like if you whether
mhm,
you're a business owner, whether you work in an office or wherever you go, they have to talk. They have to know how to communicate with their employees, with their employers. And so you're kind of depriving them of that skill set
yes,
if you don't build that yourself with them and you don't realize the simplicity of just having a conversation with them and how powerful that is in developing that social skill for them to
yes.
talk. And I think that's another important aspect of this that we need to think about and be more mindful of. Like you
Mhm,
say, when we go to pick up our phones, when we see them picking up their phones and thinking of like, how can I take this opportunity as a chance to be like, hey, how about we just put our phones away and let's just talk and see how your day really was. Like one of my favorite things is having my son actually tell me what happened in school. Like he didn't just say it was good. He tells me about each class and what they did and some of the projects they're working on. And, he's always so excited about band. And even so, okay, even if you like let's say you have kids who are gamers, like he'll talk to me about his games. And I always do my best to show interest because I know that's what he loves
mhm,
too. So it's a great way for him to still talk about it. And us to have that communication,
yeah,
without him actually being on it at the
yeah.
time.
And it's like that interest, that's such a good point, that even if it's not okay, you're not interested in gaming, but he is, so it's, you can still have a conversation when he's not on it. And my daughter is 20 and she's a phenomenal artist, and she's actually wants to study, in the science fields, but she'll start talking to me about art, and she'll talk about the lighting and, how she mixes colors. And I'm going to tell you, like, I know, do I understand like everything she's talking about? No, because like stick figure, that's about the level of what I can do artistically.
Yes, me too.
She's unbelievable what she does. And
Oh,
the thing is if I was like, okay, I don't know what she's talking about. I can't draw anyway. So if I did that and I didn't engage in those conversations with her, and it's like sometimes she'll say to me, "No, mom, I know that you have no idea what I'm talking about, but thanks for listening."
yes,
It's because that's what I want. Like when she starts telling me about, physics and stars and satellites and the stuff that she's talking about, I'm like, what? But I always listen because it's important to her. And it's those, so you said something before. I just had to bring this up because I was cracking up when you said, what are these kids gonna do when they get into the real world? So my business partner and we say all the time, these kids can't even pick up the phone and order a pizza. What like, it is such a simple thing to do, just to pick up the phone and order something. And it really got me thinking. Over Christmas break, I had said to my kids were home and they said something about like, oh, do you want to eat out or do you want to get takeout? And I was like, oh, why don't you call? And they're like, oh, nobody calls. We just use the app. And I was like, wait a second. You can't like pick up the phone and order. So I started, it was back in December. I told my son, who's my daughter's at school, so I can't make her do it. But my son, she's in college, but my son still lives with us. So I'm like, you know what? He gets a breakfast sandwich every Saturday. And I was always the one calling and ordering it. And I was like, nope, you're gonna start ordering it. So the first couple of times I wrote down what he would say. And I said, do not be like, hi, I want like a home run with a great grain. And like, stop. When the person says hello, you say, hi, how are you doing today? And wait for their response. And I do any place that I call, I always say, hi. And if they give me their name, I say their name. How are you doing today? And I wait. And I cannot tell you how many people are like, oh, I'm doing good. Thanks for asking. Because I don't think people ask these things.
Mm.
And then he orders his sandwich. And I always ask him to say, and can you just tell me, can you just repeat the order back? Because you want to make sure that you're getting the right order.
Oh, yeah.
And then make sure you thank them and tell them you'll see them in a little bit. And I was saying, you know what? I want to make a free giveaway and teaching parents how to teach their kid to pick up the phone and order a pizza, order a breakfast sandwich. And I know that it's like, oh, well, who doesn't know how to do that? But these kids don't know how to do that. They don't. And it's like, and unless we teach them,
Mm-hmm.
how will they know?
Exactly. Yeah.
How will they know?
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
like, I don't want I don't know where I was hearing, oh, I forget who was telling me. She said she like does hiring for this company. And she said, I can't tell you the number of times in the past 3 or 4 years where the mom and dad come to the interview of their 23-year-old, of their 24-year-old. I was like, no, no. She said, like, these kids don't know how to talk. And I was like, well, clearly you didn't hire any of them. She's like, no, but that's almost the direction we're going. Like,
Yeah.
these kids have almost no communication skills. And here's the other thing. The kids that do stand out.
Oh, yeah.
That can actually have a conversation like your son,
Yeah.
people are gonna be like, oh, we want to hire him.
Oh,
He
yeah.
can actually look you in the eye and talk.
Oh, yes. Oh, my God. Yeah. I tell him, I was like, you're going places. Definitely going places. He is phenomenal already at 15. I was like, oh, I'm so I couldn't be prouder. I just hope he, keep going. I say
Yeah.
we gotta keep it going, but and he is, he's great. And it's something like I love to meet women like you who are out there helping others in the same way, because you're right. It's surprising the people and the kids who don't know and who not building these social skills properly, who are giving attitude to their parents, being disrespectful to adults. It's a shame because come on, this is the next generation. That's our, as parents, it's part of our roles is helping to raise the next generation. And you have to ask yourself, what kind of life do you want for your kids? What kind of life do you want them to have? What do you want them to believe about themselves and their worth?
Mhm.
That's something you really think about. And every bit of it starts with you. You're the example, whether you like it or not. They're going to look to you as an example of how to be in the real world, how to be in the future. Even if there's things about you that you wouldn't want them to be, they're picking up on it, whether,
Mhm.
you like it or not. And then
Yeah.
I know that feels like a lot of pressure to a point, but this is why taking the time for yourself it's very crucial in this process because they're seeing that
Yeah.
and they're seeing how you are. And so yeah, I think it's a great way to bring about the awareness of this and just do something about it too. It's like it's one thing to be aware about it, but what are you going to do? What kind of steps?
Yeah.
So if you don't mind to share a little bit about that, what are some like beginning steps, if you will share, that
Uh,
you incorporate in how you help people get started?
so, one of the things that, when parents hear about conversation, and I always say, you know what, it's, you have to educate yourself because you don't know what you don't know. And technology is coming at us so fast and it's constantly changing. And at Conversation, what we do is we provide the information for you so that you can then talk with your kids and have these amazing conversations with your kids because we give you everything that you need and then you can turn around and have those conversations. And so we actually have our next parent program is kicking off on March 4th, where parents can, like-minded parents want to say, oh, I want to get out in front of this. I know what technology can do. My kid is okay for now, but I want to get out in front of this.
Yeah.
And you can be with other like-minded parents. But another thing that we are actually going to do is we are going to be launching a 6-week program. We're going to call it, we call it a 6-week challenge. And this is where a parent and child can go through Conversation for free. And you have to, and with anything, it's kind of like a gym challenge. So you go to the gym and it's a 6-week challenge and you put $250 in and you you will get the money back if you get the results that you want. If you lose weight, if you have better nutrition, if you're sleeping better, if your overall attitude and the way you feel about yourself is better, we're going to give you the $250 back. And here's the thing though, everyone knows that like a gym, you can't just go and work out for 6 weeks and think, whoo, all done, I don't need to do that anymore.
Yeah.
You sign up for, you sign up for the next program or for whatever is offered next because you know that this is beneficial. That's what we're doing with our 6-week challenge is we are offering it to um, moms and dads who want to go through Conversation. There'll be money to put down, but if you get the results that we know you will get, if you have better conversations with your kids, if you can communicate better, if you are all spending less time on tech, we will give you your money back. But here's the thing, we know that it's not, with how technology is rapidly changing, it's doing it for 6 weeks isn't enough. So then we would, offer you our subscription where you can, get stuff every single month and we'll continue to support you in that journey to have kids who are amazing and engaged and present in life.
That sounds wonderful. Truly wonderful and so important. And I think that's going to be a great launch for you and I'm excited for you and also share with us how we could find you.
Hey, so you can visit us at our website, which is conversation.com. And so I just want to, it's the Conversation. We're a bunch of different names, but we fell upon the name Conversation. We always say maybe it was dumb luck. We were playing around with words one day with conversation and relationship. And we realized that if you take the S of conversation and put L, it comes up with conversation, conversations, relationships, having conversations, strengthening relationships. And that's how we came about with Conversation. And whenever we tell people, they're like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. So you can find us at conversation.com. You can also find us on Facebook. We are on LinkedIn, on Instagram, and we would love. We do we are doing the 6-week challenge. We have a free discovery call, so you can find out more and how you can be engaged with us.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, I cannot thank you enough for being part of the show and for having this awesome conversation, something that's so important that needs to be talked about. And before we end here, is there any last final piece of advice or inspiration you want to put out there to parents?
Just talk with your kids. Talk with your kids about not just technology. Just have conversations with your kids, because you can have an amazing relationship with your teenager. We don't have to say, oh, well, they're teens. That's why we developed conversation for 8 to, it's really 14-year-olds. Start them young so that you can establish that foundation of conversations, of a relationship. And moving forward, it's amazing.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, absolutely. I 100% agree. And I love what you do. And I can't thank you enough for being part of the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Mary. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Here are the key takeaways from today's episode. From simple typing to complex coding, technology has reshaped children's abilities and normalized device-focused behavior. Excessive device usage has led to a lack of eye contact and basic social skills among children, impacting their interpersonal interactions. Instead of directly confronting children about their device usage, focus on explaining the reasons behind limiting it. Look into programs like Conversation that aim to engage children by teaching them about the effects of dopamine, social media illusions, and the addictive nature of technology to drive behavioral change. Establishing dialogue with children about technology usage is vital for creating healthy boundaries and fostering real-world interactions. Encourage real conversations to nurture social adeptness and strengthen family bonds, ultimately preparing children for success in future careers and relationships. When family members are on their phones, take the chance to initiate real conversations. Engage with loved ones about their day, hobbies, and interests, even if they differ from yours. Impart practical skills like ordering food over the phone to help children develop those essential communication skills they need. Lead by example. Demonstrate the importance of self-care and mindful communication to positively influence children's social development. Incorporating these insights into your daily life can help create a more connected and fulfilling family dynamic. If you or someone you know are currently struggling with your teen and their tech usage, then I encourage you to join Kathy's challenge, which starts March 8th, this Friday, so you can get a jump start on establishing the healthy relationship both you and your child deserve. You can find out more by clicking on the link in the show notes. Be sure to share this episode with anyone you feel would benefit from listening. I can't thank you all enough for tuning in with me each week. Please be sure to leave me a review. Your feedback is much appreciated. If you want to learn more about how I can support you on your journey, as someone who helps hardworking moms get the guidance and genuine support you deserve as you take action towards creating your successful business and life that you desire, well, I'm opening enrollment for one-on-one at this time. Your first session is free, so contact me today so we can get a jump start and motivation that you need to push through the obstacles and challenges and work towards the goals you set. Let us, radiant moms, continue to rise and live life to the fullest. Until next time, much love.